The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, page 96, Sunday, April 9th, 1882. Sri Ramakrishna was seated with his devotees in the drawing room of Ramakrishna Mukherjee's house in Calcutta. It was between 1 and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Since Colonel Vishwanath lived in that neighborhood, the master intended to visit him before going to see Keshav at the Lily Cottage. A number of neighbors and other friends of Ramakrishna had been invited to meet Sri Ramakrishna. They were all eager to hear his words. Master, God and His glory. This universe is His glory. People see His glory and forget everything. They do not seek God. Whose glory is this world? All seek to enjoy woman and gold. But there is too much misery and worry in that. This world is like the whirlpool of the Visalakshi. Visalakshi is a stream near Sri Ramakrishna's birthplace. Once a boat gets into it, there is no hope of its rescue. Again, the world is like a thorny bush. You have hardly freed yourself from one set of thorns before you find yourself entangled in another. Once you enter a labyrinth, you find it very difficult to get out. Living in the world, a man becomes seared, as it were. A devotee. Then, what is the way, sir? Master. Prayer and the company of holy men. You cannot get rid of an ailment without the help of a physician. But it is not enough to be in the company of religious people only for a day. You should constantly seek it, for the disease has become chronic. Again, you can't understand the pulse rightly unless you live with a physician. Moving with him constantly, you learn to distinguish between the pulse of phlegm and the pulse of bile. Devotee. What is the good of holy company? Master. It begets yearning for God. It begets a love of God. Nothing whatsoever is achieved in spiritual life without yearning. By constantly living in the company of holy men, the soul becomes restless for God. This yearning is like the state of mind of a man who has some ill in the family. His mind is in a state of perpetual restlessness, thinking how the sick person may be cured. Or again, one should feel a yearning for God like the yearning of a man who has lost his job and is wandering from one office to another in search of work. If he is rejected at a certain place which has no vacancy, he goes there again the next day and inquires, is there any vacancy today? There is another way, earnestly praying to God. God is our very own. We should say to Him, O God, what is Thy nature? Reveal Thyself to me. Thou must show Thyself to me. For what else hast Thou created me? Some sick devotees once said to me, God is full of compassion. I said, but why should we call Him compassionate? He is our Creator. What is there to be wondered at if He is kind to us? Parents bring up their children. Do you call that an act of kindness? They must act that way. Therefore, we should force our demands on God. He is our father and mother, isn't He? If the son demands his patrimony and gives of food and drink in order to enforce his demand, then the parents hand his share over to him 3 years before his legal time. Or when the child demands some pies from his mother and says over and over again, Mother, give me a couple of pies. I beg you on my knees. Then the mother, seeing his earnestness and unable to bear it anymore, tosses the money to him. There is another benefit from holy company. It helps one cultivate discrimination between the real and the unreal. God alone is the real, that is to say, the eternal substance, and the world is unreal, that is to say, transitory. As soon as a man finds his mind wandering away to the unreal, he should apply discrimination. The moment an elephant stretches out its trunk to eat a plantain tree in a neighbor's garden, it gets a blow from the iron goad of the driver. A neighbor. Why does a man have sinful tendencies? Master. In God's creation, there are all sorts of things. He has created bad men as well as good men. It is He who gives us good tendencies, and it is He again who gives us evil tendencies. Neighbor. In that case, sir, we aren't responsible for our sinful actions, are we? Master. Sin begets its own result. This is God's law. Won't you burn your tongue if you chew a chili? In his youth, Mathur, the son-in-law of Rani Rashmani and a great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, whom we provided with all the necessaries of life at the temple garden. In his youth, Mathur led a rather fast life, so he suffered from various diseases before his death. One may not realize this in youth. I have looked into the hearth in the kitchen of the Kali temple when logs are being burnt. At first, the wet wood burns rather well. It doesn't seem then that it contains much moisture. But when the wood is sufficiently burnt, all the moisture runs back to one end. At last, water squishes from the fuel and puts out the fire. So one should be careful about anger, passion, and greed. Take for instance the case of Hanuman. In a fit of anger, he burned Ceylon. At last, he remembered that Sita was living in the Ashoka grove. Then he began to tremble lest the fire should injure her. Neighbor. Why has God created wicked people? Master. That is His will, His play. In His Maya, there exists avidya as well as vidya. Darkness is needed too. It reveals all the more the glory of light. There is no doubt that anger, lust, and greed are evils. Why then has God created them? In order to create saints. A man becomes a saint by conquering the senses. Is there anything impossible for a man who has subdued his passions? He can even realize God through His grace. Again, see how His whole play of creation is perpetuated through lust. Wicked people are needed too. At one time, the tenants of an estate became unruly. The landlord had to send Golak Chaudhary, who was a ruffian. He was such a harsh administrator that the tenants trembled at the very mention of his name. There is need for everything. Once Sita said to her husband, Rama, it would be grand if every house in Ayodhya were a mansion. I find many houses old and dilapidated. But my dear, said Rama, if all the houses were beautiful ones, what would the masons do? Laughter. God has created all kinds of things. He has created good trees and poisonous plants, and weeds as well. Among the animals, there are good, bad, and all kinds of creatures, tigers, lions, snakes, and so on. Neighbor, sir, is it ever possible to realize God while leading the life of a householder? Master, certainly. But as I said just now, one must live in holy company and pray unceasingly. One should weep for God. When the impurities of the mind are thus washed away, one realizes God. The mind is like a needle covered with mud, and God is like a magnet. The needle cannot be united with the magnet unless it is free from mud. Tears wash away the mud, which is nothing but lust, anger, greed, and other evil tendencies, and the inclination to worldly enjoyments as well. As soon as the mud is washed away, the magnet attracts the needle. That is to say, man realizes God. Only the pure in heart see God. A fever patient has an excess of the watery element in his system. What can quinine do for him unless that is removed? Why shouldn't one realize God while living in the world? But as I said, one must live in holy company, pray to God, weeping for His grace, and now and then go into solitude. Unless the plants on a footpath are protected at first by fences, they are destroyed by cattle. Neighbor. Then householders too will have the vision of God, won't they? Master. Everybody will surely be liberated. But one should follow the instructions of the Guru. If one follows a devious path, one will suffer in trying to retrace one's steps. It takes a long time to achieve liberation. A man may fail to obtain it in this life. Perhaps he will realize God only after many births. Sages like Janaka performed worldly duties. They performed them, bearing God in their minds, as a dancing girl dances, keeping jars or trays on her head. Haven't you seen how the women in northwest India walk, talking and laughing while carrying water pitchers on their heads? Neighbor, you just referred to the instructions of the Guru. How shall we find him? Master, anyone and everyone cannot be a Guru. A huge timber floats on the water and can carry animals as well. But a piece of worthless wood sinks if a man sits on it and drowns in. Therefore, in every age, God incarnates Himself as a Guru to teach humanity. Satchidananda alone is the Guru. What is knowledge and what is the nature of this ego? God alone is the doer and none else. That is knowledge. I am not the doer. I am the mere instrument in His hand. Therefore I say, O Mother, Thou art the operator and I am the machine. Thou art the indweller and I am the house. Thou art the driver and I am the carriage. I move as Thou movest me. I do as Thou makest me do. I speak as Thou makest me speak. Not I, but Thou, but Thou. From Ramakrishna's house, the master went to Colonel Vishwanath's and from there to the Lily cottage. So then, welcome to the 7th week of the readings and reflections on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. This is the last part of the 2nd chapter that has been completed now. Next week we shall start with the 3rd chapter. In this 2nd chapter, we found that M, that is Mahendranath Gupta, his 4th visit, and later on some more visits he explains to the audience. How he says, when he wrote the book, he used to say, when he would meditate on the past incident of his time with Sri Ramakrishna, the entire episode would reveal before his mental eyes. And he could see them as if it is happening today. And then he could write. That's why such meticulousness in his observations. And he has put everything into proper way that when we read it today, sometimes we get the feeling that we are transported to those days of Ramakrishna and we are sitting in Dakshineswar before Sri Ramakrishna. And The beauty of English translation is really very much appreciated. But then, if you want to enjoy it in original, then you must read it in original Bengali version, where M has given the exact words of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna was not a man of literature. He has not gone to school, he has not gone to college, anything. So, his speech, the type of speech that he used to make in the village, was a village man's rustic speech. And that village man's speech had a lot of colloquialism inside, which perhaps in the city-bred people would not or would be afraid to use colloquialism so easily. They use pure and better words in Bengali language itself. But you see, that's why Calcutta Bengali is somewhat different from if you go into the interior villages, like Bakuda, etc. When I go there, and then I see Bakuda or Murshidabad or Medinipur, when the people they speak there, it is more colloquial Bengali they speak. You cannot call it a Calcuttan Bengali. So that colloquial Bengali is something different, and that is what Sri Ramakrishna used to speak. So when you read in Bengali, and when he has used the colloquial Bengali, and verbatim, he has reproduced it. So whether it is right or not, there were questions. That's why it was referred to Holy Mother. And Holy Mother said, okay, you read it, my son, let me hear it. And one Swami was reading it one by one. And mother is closed her eyes, and she was hearing that. And she said later, exactly the words of Master have been reproduced here. So that is wonderful quality of M, who could reproduce the words of Master verbatim. So when you read it in Bengali, it is something wonderful, that how the joy that comes from that, hearing that colloquialism, at such a great joy. And many of the colloquialism are not well known to these Calcuttan Bengalis. So when I started reading the Gospel in Bengali, so I asked some of our co-brahmacharis, and they couldn't explain certain concepts. And then we used to say, Maharaj, you are telling Bengali is one language, everybody can understand. But it is not so. There are colloquialism of Bakuda and Hooghly district which are not known to Calcutta people. Then slowly, this idea that how to make, even among the Bengalis, in the non-colloquial Bengalis, how to make them understand, that question rose up. So, our Udbodhan, the Mayer body, the Udbodhan Bengali publications, they brought out a unique edition of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. This book, Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, had the copyright period. So when the copyright period was over, so anybody could publish it. First time it was published by Ananda Bazar Patrika in a World Book Fair in Calcutta. Calcutta Book Fair is very famous. All over the eastern India, people come to purchase books. Apart from the discount rate, etc., there are the books which are rare, manuscripts, etc., also were available there. So they bring it there. So first time they published, and that was the book which is sold out the maximum number during the book fair. The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, brought out by Ananda Bazar Patrika. So you can see that copy. I also do have that. It's a small size and very thin paper. You can read it, and anywhere you can take it. That is the best way. That book was helping me. And here you find this Master's speech of colloquial way has been certified by Mother also. That's why there is a great joy in reading it in original. But, everybody cannot learn Bengali to read in original. So, but then this English translation by Swami Nikhilananda is the best of all the other translations. You may say, what other translations are there in English? You'll be surprised to know. Ramakrishna's one disciple, Swami Abhedananda, he started writing a gospel. He translated. That book is also printed. It is available for sale also. But when you read that, it cannot compare with this. Or later he thought there are many people are coming in the fold of, say, Ramakrishna, and they are not knowing Bengali. So let me translate my own writing of Bengali into English. So he himself translated. That translation also can never stand before Nikhilanji's translation. Somehow we find Nikhilanji's translation has taken very good, it has been accepted well by the community. And so here in English, certain expressions also there that he has used. In this portion that we read here today, there are some questions, very valid questions by the devotees. The devotees have come and joined together to see Sri Ramakrishna in Pran Krishna's house. Pran Krishna was one of the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, and he had invited him. Actually, Ramakrishna is going to Lily Cottage, to Keshav Sen's house. And before that, he came and stayed in Pran Krishna's house. He took lunch there. After lunch, by 2 o'clock or so, he was sitting there. And that is the time that M has noted. So he says, some of the neighbors of Pran Krishna, Babu, also have come there to see Sri Ramakrishna. They were all eager to hear the words. What are the points that Sri Ramakrishna is touching in this portion? You're surprised that he says, God and His glory are, what are they? If you say, if there is God, then God must have glory. What is the glory of God? So sometimes we say, glory of God is His name. So, Vishnu Sahasranamam, 1000 names of Vishnu. And you say, or Devi Sahasranamam is there. So, Lalita Sahasranam. So, people all do the part every time. In every day for hymnal chanting, some people have that. Every day they sit for 15 minutes and do this type of hymnal chanting. In many of the houses also we do that. So I have seen my own mother chanting Lalita Sahasranam every day without fail. So like that people have this hymnal chanting. So she used to say that the names, 1000 names of God or Goddess are all glory. Names can be one of the glories. After coming to Ramakrishna, I learned that this universe is His glory. It is something, a wonderful idea. How many times we wonder, we look at with awe and wonder at certain natural scenes. Can you imagine some of the natural scenes that we have seen in our life have been embedded into our mind so wonderfully? One devotee was telling, Maharaj, you must come to our place and I will take you on the way near the sea in Dublin. A place is there. Sun is setting on the sea. And you can see that, how sunset, it all becomes reddish color of the clouds. And then you can see that, how wonderful. Sometimes it just makes you stand still and you look at it. So the nature, which is nothing but, which we call universe, this universe is nothing but the glory of God. Why it should be glory of God? Because Vedanta says God was not like some potter sitting in a place having certain mud from, say, Ganges mud he has taken and is making a pot. The world was not created like that. How the world was created? The world was created by God, not like a potter. Because if you say God is like a potter sitting somewhere on the heavens and then He is creating this world, that means the creator is necessary, then the created pot is necessary separately, which is different from the God, and a reason or a item is required by which you create a God. So, to create a universe. So, these three things are necessary to create a pot. So, a creator and an element to create, and then finally what is created? A pot. So, these three things are necessary in the creation. But you find, is it so? The question was asked in Upanishad's time. Then the saints, the sages there, they were cogitating. Is it possible? That means God is separate from the created. Like that, we may have views in other religions also you find. They are also having such type of views. But Vedanta says it doesn't deny those views. They are all sort of steps to another ultimate view of this universe, which Vedanta says this universe was created by God and the God himself has become the universe. So it is not that he had somewhat some element with him and then like a mud, the potter has and then he creates a pot. Not like that. He himself has become the universe. So God manifests himself as this universe. So is there any difference between the manifested universe and the unmanifested God? If unmanifested God has manifested as this universe, has he exhausted his glory? That question also is raised later. Then the Vedanta says no, his glory is not exhausted by his manifestation. Because manifestation is infinitesimally a smallest part or power of God. That means we can understand how God in original, what infinite nature it is. So the universe is finite, so it cannot be infinite. But God is infinite, so naturally the finite universe has become and he has manifested as this universe. But the glory of God can be seen in this universe. So there are many types of beings are there. So even among our residents of this earth, if you take it, humanity is not alone. There are animals are there, there are insects are there are so many types of beings are there, and also unseeable certain beings are there, like devas, danavas, like that kinnaras. Those devas are not seen by us, but they are there. So like that, there are many types of, even bhuta pisacha, they are all not seen normally. Only to very few people who can see these things. So there are many kinds of beings are there. With all if you see the Durga Kavacham, if you read that, in the Durga Kavacham itself, the sage says there are about 12 beings, he gives the names, and then etc. he says. Still we are counting only. How many beings, how many types of species are there? Biology is still counting. We have not completed it. Every day they say 2 species are discovered in this world. Every day. Still it is counting going on. We do not know how far it will go. So such is the glory of God that this finite universe itself appears to us to be like infinite. Only when you go on the sky and see from the sky the earth, then only you feel, oh, this is only small thing. Like that you think. Otherwise, the NASA photos, if you see that, how the globe is so small. How the world is, this world that we are living is so small, we can understand that. So, still that, the space, the infinite space, it goes on and on and on, connecting all the spots. So, that is how this God's glory comes. So, he says it's his glory. People see his glory and forget everything. What they forget here, what Sri Ramakrishna says is, they all seek to enjoy. So enjoyments of senses is what makes them forget to see the glory of. You see the glory of God, I am attracted to the glory of God, and then I forget the creator of this glory. To whom this glory belongs to, who has created this universe, him I forget. If you can remember in each of these, then that would be the ideal way of leading a spiritual life. In his glory, you must reflect God. Instead of that, we differentiate God and his glory, and our mind is completely attuned to the glory only.
Ungrateful. Ungrateful. Becomes ungrateful. We realize the glory of the God.
Yes.
But we are ungrateful to the God.
Yes. Yes, you can say that. So what happens is here, that the glory is so mesmerizing. So much of hypnotizing faculty is there. So that also he only has made. Forget. That is also later he says, He only has given the good thoughts, he has only given the bad thoughts. So the glory we forget. But what lamenting is, the lamentation Sri Ramakrishna makes here is he's pointing out that there are people who do not remember God, who rather fully engrossed in the sensual enjoyments, that is in the glory of God. Now he says what it can be, or how do you explain that in examples. So he gives two examples, rather three examples he gives. One is, he says, the whirlpool of Visalakshi. Visalakshi is a small stream near Kamarpukur. When you go there, you can see the stream. At one place, the Visalakshi stream creates a whirlpool. And in the whirlpool, whatever goes inside, it just takes it inside and drowns it. So like that, man is drowned. When a boat gets into it, there is no hope of its rescue. Because it will go on rounding, and finally it will be drowned. So there is no rescue. Another example he gives, the world is like a thorny bush. So a thorny bush, while walking in the parks, etc., when you go, some thorny bushes catch your cloth. And you are going forward, but it is catching you behind. So you look at it and you move it. And then you go another 2 steps, another thorn has caught you. So like the thorny bushes, he says, one after another, it comes. Once you get freed yourself, another thorn comes and catches you. Third thing he says, once you enter a labyrinth, you find it very difficult to get out. This labyrinth, we all used to have the children. We used to give a small piece of toy where the labyrinth is there and balls are there. So the child has to take the ball slowly through the open walls and then take it to the center. So that is called labyrinth. But then, have you seen labyrinth, walking labyrinth? When I went to certain places, in particularly Christian monasteries, I look for the labyrinth. The labyrinth they make in a big space like this. A big, say, 250 square feet place. And there they put the labyrinth. There you walk. And people walk while doing japa, or their mantra. So whether if you are a Christian, you do some prayer and repeat the prayer and walk in that. So you don't see here and there because you lose the path. So your eyes are attentive to the path only. So you look at that. Oh, I am going like this. And then coming like this. It goes on like this. And finally you come to the center. And from the center you come out. It is a spiritual practice. I think we saw a little few days before at Dalgan Park, one such labyrinth, where we are going to hold the retreat there on 22nd, 23rd and 24th. So there, the labyrinth is there. So people can go there and go on doing your japa and come away. So I did like that. There is a park in Durban where I used to go and I used to walk. I used to tell the devotees, one after another, let us form a queue and go into that. Don't see here and there. Your attention should not be disturbed. Think of a prayer or japa and then walk in that. And you go on. And if you are unmindful of the path that you are entering, you are likely to lose your path. And you do not know how to come. Some labyrinths are constructed in such a way only a man can walk, that much only space is there. And there are bush is grown, 2 sides. So even if you want to see, you can't see anything because the bush is there. And you walk in the path itself. So Sri Ramakrishna quotes here 3 examples. And then immediately, after hearing the example, the devotees who are listening to Sri Ramakrishna became dejected, disappointed. So that neighbor asked, then what is the way, sir? Is there no way? So we are all caught. So thorn after thorn is coming and catching me. And I have gone into a labyrinth, I cannot come out. So is that all? Then Master says, no. Prayer and the company of holy men are required. This everywhere, almost in every 2 pages, you find Ramakrishna stressing the need for a prayer and a good company, holy company. And he says, if you cannot get rid of an ailment without the help of physician, that is understood. We all know that. Even I fell a few days back and got hurt. And I had to go to a physician only. Finally, I went to a physician. He x-rayed it and he said, okay, without the physician help, you cannot get cured of your ailment. That is well known. So that is why physicians are there. So, he says, you should constantly seek it, for the disease has become chronic. If you have a chronic disease, I had only one time disease, so I went and came back, it's all right. But if I am having a chronic disease, I must have a GP registered. That's why I told Swami Purnananji, I am a diabetic patient, so he must arrange a GP for me. He said, okay. He knows one GP, will arrange GP. Because you require a constant company of a GP if you are a chronic patient. So the chronic ailment requires a constant attention of the physician. So then he says, another example he says, if you want to learn how to read the pulse, one time, two times if you do, will you be enough? No. You must stay with, that's why the house staffship, the people do, after passing the MBBS, they go to house staff or housemanship. And when you go to do the housemanship, you stay with the big doctor and move with him. Nearly 16 hours you stay with the doctor. And then only you know what is the difference between the different types of pulses. And then one person is asking, okay sir, you are telling the necessity of holy company, but what is the good of holy company? Okay, you told that holy company is necessary. I also have holy company. What I am going to gain from that? For that, Sri Ramakrishna says certain points he gives very good. First thing he says, it begets yearning for God. So we start thinking in our lives, is there God? If God is there, can I see Him? So if I am yearning means I am asking for or wanting. That is what yearning. Very with the excellent, with the top rank of top degree of intensity is called yearning. Otherwise you can say I want it. But this yearning is intensive yearning. So that he says, his mind is you have to live in the holy company. That means the soul becomes restless for God. This we find in many people. They feel restless. They are not very happy with their status of life. Even though all the comforts are there, they suddenly think, oh, something is amiss in my life. I must get something. So what is that? That is this God. That yearning for God comes. So the restlessness brings them to run here, there, everywhere. And they search for places of meditation or yogis or holy men. Like that they go on searching for that. And then they settle finally. Then they say, so one office to another gives an example again. So how is the earning? Earning is like a man who is searching for a job. He goes and asks for a job, the job is not there. Still he knows the job is not there. He goes next day and asks for, today do you have a vacancy? Like that. That is called earning, he says. And then he says, one must pray to God. God, what is thy nature? Reveal thyself to me. Sometimes Sri Ramakrishna's praise to Mother Kali, when we read it, actually he is teaching us how to pray. We do not know how to pray. We can stand before the God and say, oh God, give me this, give me that. We can say that. But there are certain universal prayers we do not know. That's why we take the help of Adi Shankara and other great sages and saints. Even Swamiji's prayer that we do every day, that's a prayer. But how the prayer is come? The prayer is couched in a language thought of by Swamiji. To that extent, perhaps my mind will not be able to conceive. That's why we take the help of those great saints and use those hymns as our prayers. That is a great benefit for us. Now he says, God is thyself, show thyself to me. You have created this universe. Have you not created me? Like that he says. Then he is quoting the Sikh devotees. Because there are some Sardarjis who used to come to Sri Ramakrishna. And one of them one day told Sri Ramakrishna, see, God is the creator of this universe. Okay, Ramakrishna had no problem with that. Then he said, God is so compassionate. There is no one compassionate equal to God. Now Sri Ramakrishna is little irritated at that time. He says, what is there? If parents are taking care of their children, can you call that as a compassion? They have to do it. So if God has created the universe, and according to Vedanta, God has become this universe, then He is taking care of this. Is there anything to be surprised at? What is the very praising God? Oh, you are compassionate. Like that, you don't need to say that. So he says, rather, you can put out your demands on God. This is something wonderful. I have heard from some devotees, they say like that. They say, Maharaj, this in humble prayer, etc., doesn't come to me. I said, why? You don't have humility. Humility is one of the wonderful traits of man. You don't have humility. He said, no, I am talking about humility in prayer. I say, O Lord Ramakrishna, you are my father, you are my mother. Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva. So, in that case, I have got every right to ask you. I will say, get it done. Like that I will order him. That is how she put it to me. That means this is a higher nature in devotion, you see. First devotion, you are afraid of God. Second stage comes when, that fear is gone. Now you start loving God. But in loving God also, you start asking for. But third stage comes, that love becomes so mature, where you think that God is your own. So no question of asking Him humbly. God, tomorrow I am going to that place. Get it done. That's all. You give an order to Him. Demand to Him. And that is, Sri Ramakrishna points out, yes, they must act that way. So that he says, if the son demands his patrimony and gives a food and drink in order to enforce his demand, which parent will not give him 3 days before registration in his son's name, will hand it over. We see that every time. Children take very adamant and they cry and they said, I will not take food today unless you get it a cycle for me. So the cycle comes again. So that adamancy is required. So he says, if that is possible, in God also this is possible. So there are devotees who go into the matured kind of love. They demand God like that. Get it done. And it gets done. Because God has got no other. That's why in one place, Hari says to Narada. So Narada is telling Hari, this devotee has...
Any time in your life, such thing happened.
Such means?
That you ordered the God to give you something and you got it.
Oh, that means I should say I am matured in love of God. I don't want to say that now. I do not know even what is love of God. We are all together, you see. That is the maturity of love that should come. Then you can say, you can instruct God. So I am telling you this incident that, what did I start? Narada and Hori. Yes, Hori and Narada are talking. Narada is telling, this devotee I am seeing, so much devoted to you. And he is praying to you all the time. And why can't you give him what he asks? Then Sri Hari says to Narada, see, I could give whatever he wants except one. What is that? If he wants the sukha bhoga of this world, the pleasure of this world, I can grant immediately. Even if he wants mukti, I can grant him immediately. But one thing I will not grant immediately is that, and that is what he is wanting. Then Narada got curious. What is that thing that Bhakta is asking for and he is not giving? Then Hari said, it is bhakti to me. He is asking bhakti. Then Narada asked Hari, what is the problem in giving bhakti to that person? If I give mukti to him, he merges with me. No duality. That's all. Finished. But if he gives bhakti, he is separately living from me and I have to be his humble servant all the time. Because he will be commanding me. Do this, do that. So, if I give bhakti to anybody, I have to be a servant. I will not give bhakti to him. If he asks mukti, I am ready to give. So Narad went and said, no, you have to still struggle to get bhakti. So you go on doing your prayers, and one day Narad, as God will give you bhakti.
Okay, Maharaj,
So,
just to disturb you, all these bhakti very word, I heard a story from another Maharaj, that one child who was moving with Ma, Sharada Ma, every time. Then he demanded, Mother, you give me bhakti. Then mother told, from where shall I give you bhakti? Well, that I do not know. I need bhakti. As a child, he started weeping, demanding, catching the clothes of the mother and everywhere. Then mother told, okay, I shall give you bhakti. Then another lady was there, asked, Mother, where do you get the bhakti? Well, I understood what bhakti means for. Then mother took him to the temple and gave some prasada to him and told, this is the bhakti. You take this bhakti with you and have. So this is just a story.
yes. So bhakti giving is really problem for the God, because you have to be an attendant to that devotee. So now that is a child demands. You see, on my knees, I beg you on my knees, the child says. So mother has to give. So these are the examples Sri Ramakrishna produces before us, so that we can see where we stand in our life. What type of bhakti we have, it can be very well understood. There is another benefit from holy company. He says, this is very important, which is much neglected by the devotees, I should say. And even for monks it is very much reliable. What is that? The cultivation of discrimination. Discrimination, as I told you, is the word used here. The discrimination means what is right, what is wrong, what is eternal, what is transitory. These type of things, whenever we desire for anything, immediately the mind should come in us that we must discriminate. This is called Viveka Buddhi. So the Viveka must be activated. Is it necessary or not? Is it really necessary or not? Or why my mind is going after this again and again? Can I say that no, not necessary now, later? Can I say like that? Why the mind is going towards that? So like that, we are go on analyzing it. You can, another English word is which modern days for Viveka we use it, it's a discernment. Discernment also brings the same meaning. So, as soon as a man finds his mind wandering away to the unreal, he should apply discrimination. So the discrimination faculty is with everyone. We all know that what I am now running after is not going to be permanent one with me. It is a transitory, it is a temporary thing. But still knowing that I am running behind that. So immediately the discrimination must come. This is called in Vedanta, it's called Viveka Buddhi. So this also develops by coming into holy company. You know, one devotee used to come to our Cuttack center, and there, Bhubaneswar, Bhubaneswar part of our Odisha, is the capital of Odisha. In Bhubaneswar we have got an ashram. Swami Brahmananji used to come and stay there. One devotee again and again coming to the head of that center and telling him, I want to donate a few acres of land that he has got. I want to donate to the ashram. So that Swami went and told Brahmananji, because president of the order, he is staying there. So he told him, Maharaj, this devotee wants to give something. So the land he wants to give. If you take the land, what is the benefit? Perhaps you may construct another ashram there, or when there is no money, you can sell it and get the money for the running of the present ashram. There are so many facilities are there. Like that, this Mahanta Swami was telling Brahmananji. One day he said, Brahmanji was quiet. Second day he said he was quiet. Like that, about a month he has been nurturing, or you should say, you are asking Brahmananji to say yes. So if he says yes, then he will ask the devotee, bring the legal papers, we will sign. On that day, when he was thinking Brahmanji may give permission, he was very, very happy. The Swami was very, very happy. And Brahmanji asked him, see, he comes to the ashram regularly. He has got a holy company of you. Being a monk here, he has got a holy company of you. By having a holy company of you, he has developed detachment to his property. And you being a monk, why you are jumping for the property? The monk was stunned. Oh, what a mistake I have made. And to go and tell Brahmananji Maharaj, you see, our mission, has grown because of the donation of many people. Yes, like that only things come. But then, if you are too much interested to take away somebody's property, then the question mark comes. Whether do you have that detachment? Are you asking only for increasing the property of the ashram and get a credit? Or you are getting this for the benefit of the ashram unselfishly? This question mark comes, So whenever you desire anything, whenever you want anything, you must put this question, this viveka. So holy company gives or brings up that wonderful detachment or the discrimination. Then another person, the neighbor, asks, why does the man have sinful tendencies? Very plain answers in Sri Ramakrishna's words. He says, you accept God is there, you accept that God has become this universe, and God has created this universe and he has become this universe, that's all. This is his glory. But then you find in this world lot of people with evil tendencies. Why? Then he says, God's creation, there are all sorts of things. So he says, there are bad men, says good men. Men with good tendencies, men with bad tendencies, evil tendencies. Then if God has given the evil tendency in a evil person, can you blame him that he has done something sin? Because God has given. Can you not say like that? So you can remove your, responsibility. Then he says, in that case, we aren't responsible for our sinful acts. Quite logical. Master says, sin begets its own result. That is God's law. So if you chew a chili, it will be burning your tongue. So you make a sinful act, that will bring another result of that, and for that you have to suffer. So if you do any type of sins, that it has its own the karmic law, we say. So the law of karma will come into play at that very moment when you do any action, whether it is good or bad. If you do sinful action or if you do meritorious action, both actions will bring its effects. And the effects you have to face it. No other way. So in that way, God makes you understand that the responsibility of not being sinful. Then he says, one may not realize this in youth. And he gives the Kali temples, Kali temple logs. The logs are cut and asked to made to burn. And immediately it burns, but it's a wet log. But after some time, the water comes out from that place and comes and gets stored at the fag end of the log, and then the log doesn't burn. Like that, the worldly man is like that. And then he says that one should be careful about anger, passion and greed. Take for instance the case of Hanuman. How many times Sri Ramakrishna brings the example of Hanuman in his talks, Every time, sometime, bhakti comes immediately, Hanuman must come. So here also he brings, Hanuman burnt Lanka. While the whole Lanka was burning, he was thinking and sitting there and thinking, I have now put fire into the Lanka, but Mother Sita is within Lanka. She will also get hurt. And then it is said he prayed to Agnidev. And maid said, if Agnidev touches Mother Sita, it should be cool. He prayed. Of course, Agnidev did not touch Mother Sita. You know the story. So, that she was not. That. Then says, then another question. Another person is asking, why at all God has created wicked people? Okay, you told wicked tendencies are also born of God. Okay. Then why did he create wicked people finally? This is for that Master gives. It is his will, his play, his maya. There exists avidya, there exists vidya. Both are required. Why both are required? He gives a beautiful example. If without darkness, can you imagine the value of brightness? Only when it is everything dark, say this 60-watt bulb, we can say that 60-watt bulb. And if it is fully dark, you put 100-watt bulb. How? Om Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Dhrita Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Paramesha Medyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.